Uppercut, uppercut, sonic boom! Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, if you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too. Welcome to the channel. Today's the first review of 2025, and we're kicking it off with the HWK-12, the Tier 9 German light tank we had to wait like 7 years for. Like, this thing is so long overdue. We've had whole tech trees of other light tanks. We've got British lights, Russian lights, French lights, Chinese lights, and they've finally got round to giving us a Tier 9 and 10 German light. Bit disappointing overall, and this tank really does hit that theme of disappointment quite well. I'm showing you this game in particular to kick us off, not because it's an incredible game, because this is an example of playing against Tier 8 and 9 tanks, and it doesn't get to do that very often at all. What it does do very, very well is DPM. You've got 3k DPM with all the bells and whistles on this, running your fuel and your rations and the rammer, and it really absolutely cooks. But as you saw there, it takes a pounding at the same time. Now, there are various mechanics that they've been put in for this tank to really make it work, but the problems I have with it are multiple. But most notably is that to be successful as a Tier 9 light, you have to be so good that you can be up tier to Tier 10 and still really play your role. And while this tank can do it, it's not easy. And in fact, it was one of the hardest grinds I've had in recent memory. Now, I will be reviewing the Rhm Pzr Rheinmetall Panzerwagen after this one, so don't fret, that's coming. And I'll let the cat out of the bag. It is just a massive upgrade in pretty much every department on the HWK-12. This feels like a tank that you grind up as much as you have to, and then you leave it alone. You either sell it or just stick it in the garage to gather mothballs. Because for me, it's competing against some absolutely outstanding vehicles. The Sheridan T92E1 is an awesome tank that delivers a low DPM but very high alpha strike, and that makes it a lot easier to use than this. This tank is all about high DPM. Now, spending a lot of time on target is not easy when your armor profile looks like this and your alpha strike is so low. So you've really got to make sure with the HWK that you play it very, very carefully. And I don't think this is a tank I would be recommending for newer players. If I was going to go up a light line, I would most likely go up either the Russian light line or maybe the American light line, just because they have a lot more plug and play ability for me. But I digress. We're going to talk about the specific... Well, I mean, it looks like an SP1C, right? And the SP1C is super low armor, just like this. But what made the SP1C so great when it was first introduced was the fact that it had a 2-shot autoloader. And I really think the HWK would be wonderful if it had the ability to run a 2-shot autoloader as well. That would give you a certain amount of front loading with your damage and allow you to really minimize the time on target. As it is, that for me, when you're seeing Tier 10 tanks, is an absolute train wreck. Let's have a look at the armor profile first and foremost. Bushka, take it away. Well, actually, there's one more tank left in this thing. Let's get through it. We'll talk a little bit about the game mechanics. They gave it concealment in movement. Obviously, that's your light tank movement. They gave it tracer shells, which is bloody lovely. That means that when you hit someone, they are visible to all allies for 20 seconds. That's going to give you a lot more spotting damage. And then adaptive concealment, which means when you're spotted for 3 seconds less than a normal tank. You're only spotted for 7 seconds, not for 10 seconds. Let's see what the great Bushka has to say about the armor profile. Take it away, buddy. Let's talk about the armor profile on this wee beastie. Firstly, I'll just show you the straight up armor profile. 40 millimeters on the front, 27 millimeter plating on the side, 18 millimeters plating on the back. Ever so slightly soaked. ever so slightly sloped. So your 27 millimeters on the side actually equates to a whopping 31 millimeters. Yeah, it's not doing much. Like, lower plate, 30 millimeters, angled to 36 millimeters if you're shooting straight on. Which is bad, right? We're going to use the Blitz pen. So this is just as the tank looks at you. This is from a T-54 with its horrific AP gun. You have a whopping 201 millimeters of AP pen. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You're going through everything. You're smashing this thing. If you can see it, you can shoot it and kill it. And what I'm going to show you right now is truly terrifying. This is T-54 HE from the side. You can pen this thing with HE all down that side panel. And if you shoot him in the butt, 19 millimeters of armor, you're penning all of this. You're a 74% chance of full penning the corners. Like, you know, if you shoot it on this plate here, you're not going to pen 86 millimeters. The lower plate, you will full pen 34 millimeters. I mean, even angled, you still have a good opportunity to do full pen, 41 millimeters. So I want you to imagine then that you are dealing with tier 10 tanks, like the T-62A. And even the T-62A running HE will pen you frontally, your side panel down inside the tank a long way. You would never be able to point this gun upwards. But realistically, we're playing Blitz. We're not talking about real life situations. So you want to be shooting this gun over your ass if possible. That allows you to drive away from the tank, from the enemy really, really quickly. And you'll say, well, you've only got 19 millimeters of armor right here. You're going to get full penned. Buddy, you got 40 millimeters on the front. Like, you're going to get the shit kicked out of you. You ain't bouncing anything. You ain't bouncing jack, bro. So that's a thing. So with that in mind, here's me playing in a standard tier 10 matchup. Now, I should be completely above board. For me, this tank did not do well. 53% win rate, 1675 average damage. Like, I play mostly solo. My Vickers is 150 games at 74% win rate and just over I think it's 2,100 average damage. T910 and 92E1 is 66 over about 150, just over 2,000 average damage. Like, they are able to do so much more because, well, they have a much stronger alpha strike. And it's one of the reasons why this tank, when you get to the tier 10, works so much better. It's not just the hit point increase, although 1,550 hit points feels like nothing in this tank. Because of this armor profile, you're going to eat a lot of damage. And it's very, very difficult to put shots in unless you really work hard for it. You're going to see constantly resetting the camo here, which means we're only getting to fire very small doses of alpha. 240 average alpha in this tank with 225 millimeters of penetration. Those are pretty standard. They're not good. They're not great in terms of penetration. But the 240 alpha is particularly poor. You're going to see me basically leverage this Minotauro's hit point pool into a successful rip on the Kranwagen. And this is the kind of gameplay you need to have as a light tank driver. It's just when you're driving a lot of tanks, it's so much easier to do it when you're driving those tanks, you know, with a little bit of armor or a little bit more alpha. So it's possible to drive it successfully. You can, you know, be more aggressive in it than I am being here. But when you're at tier 10 and 1,500 hit points and you can be penned by HE, for a Caro or something, you're a clear. Like, you're just a clear. Like, you are, num 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 num, let's get stuck in. So you've got to be really pedantic about the shots you take and the places you take them from. Now, obviously, having tracer shells and adaptive concealment is a big bonus. You can see the eyeball and you know exactly when you stop being spotted, which is massive. Like, that's, if it wasn't for that, this tank would be nigh on unplayable. It's so light. But for all that, it's not an easy tank to play. It just isn't. And I wish it was a little bit more like the old SP1C, which it looks exactly like. And I tell you, when you play this and then compare it to the Tier 10, wow, like the Tier 10 is a romp of a tank. It's so much fun. And I just don't know where they went wrong with this. Like, it doesn't have tungsten shells, which is a little bit of a problem. It doesn't really get that many opportunities. You've got to really focus on getting to late game with some hit points, because if you guys don't focus on getting to late game with hit points, you're going to end up in a situation where you just can't be effective. You want to get to the point where you can dump damage, because it can dump massive steaming wads of damage. For me, it's a tank that I will grind through and then I will leave alone. And I can tell you, after playing the Tier 10, I'm very happy I ground through it. It's worth going through, but it's not a tank I'd keep. It's not like a T30 or an ST1 or a T54 or, you know, a Vickers CR. I'm Bushka. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Look out for the next review. Should be out in the next few days. And until next time, stay safe on the battlefield. Bye for now.